Nancy Kesselman is suing her son, Danny Horath, and his fiancee, Trinity Wilson, for living expenses, stolen property, and vet bills.
Court come to order. All rise.
Have a seat, please.
Hello, Judge. Case number 2049, Councilman versus Jorge Watson.
Thank you.
You're welcome.
Mr. Horath, this is your mother,
Yes, ma'am.
and this is your girlfriend.
My fiance, yes.
Is she divorced?
She's widowed.
Since when?
June 6th,
Of what year?
2022.
Well, let me understand this. Prior to you being a widow, you were involved with Mr. Horath. Were you divorced?
I was going through a divorce.
Okay. And then he passed away.
Yes.
Mr. Horath, in 2013,
Yeah.
you were incarcerated. How long?
5 years.
And you have two little girls.
Yes, ma'am.
When you were incarcerated, were the children living with you
No.
prior to being incarcerated?
Yes.
They were living with you.
Yes.
When you went to prison, was there any reason the children didn't go with their mother?
She left him with my mother.
So your mother obtained custody of your children 9 years ago
Yes.
and raised them.
Yes.
You got out of prison when?
September 2017.
And when you got out of prison, your mother invited you to come and live in the house?
Yes.
In her house?
Yes, ma'am.
Who else lives in her house?
My grandmother.
Who I understand from these papers is suffering from
Alzheimer's.
Alzheimer's. So your mother was taking care of her mother and your two daughters.
Yes.
So your fiance now, who looks as if she's expecting a child, was your mother's next door neighbor?
Yes.
And you became involved with her when?
End of October 2020, or 19, I'm sorry.
And when you became involved with her, you have two children.
Yes.
You invited her with your mother's permission to move in to your mother's house with her two children.
Yes, ma'am.
We did agree that she could move in and stay in the guest.
Had you been living in the house by yourself with the two girls?
Yes, I have.
How large a house is it?
It's pretty good, decent size. It was 1,980 square feet, now expanded out another 800 feet, so quite. 5 bedrooms, 3 baths.
How do you support yourself?
I own my own business. I'm a nurse. Due to the fact of taking care of my granddaughters and my parents at the time, I had to resign from Fort Irwin, working there because of couldn't commit to the hours. So because of that, I went ahead and got my own business of doing home infusions, and that started right before the pandemic. And so I work a lot.
Anybody help you take care, before they moved in, anybody help you take care of the girls and your mother?
No, it was me.
Now, what kind of work do you do?
I'm a truck driver.
And you?
Nursing student and mother?
So you don't work.
No.
How do you support yourself?
I was going to school and...
Well, supporting yourself doesn't going to school unless you were getting money for going to school. Were you getting money for going to school?
Yes.
From whom?
From financial aid.
How much?
Maybe like $800, $900 a month. And this was before I was living with Danny and Nancy.
And after you moved in with Danny and Nancy?
I was helping her take care of her mother, and her VA was paying me to take care of her.
She was getting the Veterans Aid and attendance. I gave her that extra money to help out with my mom and those expenses.
And then currently, I'm taking care of our young son we have together.
So you have a child together and expecting another one?
Yes.
So then you'll have 4 children, you, correct?
Yes.
And you will have 4 children.
I will have 4 children, yes.
Sounds as if your mother did some very nice things for you.
Yes, ma'am.
Sounds as if Miss Castleman did some very nice things for you.
Yes.
Why do you think she's suing you?
Out of anger,
Mr. Horath, why would she be angry at either one of you?
because we decided that we were going to go ahead off and do our own thing, and she was no longer included in being part of that.
Like what?
Well, being part of a family or a unit. Once my grandmother's health declined and she went to a facility, there was no more communication about anything that was going on around the house anymore.
I don't know what you mean by that. Your fiance's arrangement was that she was being paid by the VA to take care of your grandmother.
Yes.
And then your grandmother, according to you, had to go into a facility,
Yes.
which means your fiance isn't getting any more payment from the VA.
Correct.
Now, you're working, you drive a truck.
Yes.
Were you contributing towards the running of the household?
Oh, of course. Yes.
How much?
Whatever needed to be paid.
No. Tell me what you paid.
I paid the Edison, half the Edison.
Well, that's not a set amount.
I
Do you
paid
understand?
$300 a month.
Well, that's an amount. So you paid $300 a month towards the Con Edison.
Yes, ma'am.
What else did you pay?
We paid for the trash,
How much was the trash?
$50 a month.
What else?
I paid for the food
For who?
for our family.
Well, for all of you or just for you, your fiance, and the 4 children?
And my grandmother, yes, and my grandmother, and Nancy, too.
Not for me.
Shh. Speak.
She would come over and have dinner with us quite often. And I would make her meals and send them to her.
What you're saying is, because I read when you said she would come over for dinner, there came a time when there were an awful lot of people living in the house, and your mother, because it was so crowded, moved into a trailer on the premises, and you moved into the master suite.
Yes.
Is that correct?
Yes, it is.
Say thank you, Mom.
Thank you.
Thank you.
Thank you, Nancy.
Now, did you pay for anything else that you're not telling me?
Yes, we paid for the internet.
Their internet.
Yes.
Shh. For your own internet?
Yes.
I'm talking about expenses for the house. I assume the mortgage was paid off. Is that what
Yes.
you wrote
Yes.
here?
Danny did pay for the property taxes.
Okay. Well, then that was my next question. Property taxes. Did you pay for any of that?
Yes.
How much did you pay?
It was $12.64 a year.
Anything else?
Remodeling expenses that we did to the home.
I know it was expanded, and it was expanded after you were there.
Yes.
Yes. And do you know how much the remodeling expenses were?
The additions were done before I came home, but everything else was added to when we were living there.
Like what?
The pellet stove had went out, so we bought a new one.
Oh, that's I'm not interested.
Okay.
I'm not interested in that. I'm talking about regular. So let me get to my trusty computer. We have $300 a month for Con Ed. So I don't even have to do that. I could do 1, 2, 6, 4. Everybody knows me now. I'm a little challenged with regard to these things. Divided by 12 equals $105 a month. And $300 a month for Con Ed and $50 for trash is $5. So you paid in total the expenses that you told me, $455 a month for living in a 5-bedroom house. I'm just setting the stage for this. You paid $455 a month for living in a 5-bedroom house, and your mother moved out to live in a trailer so that you could be in the master suite with your fiance, a new baby, and one on the way. Those are the objective facts that I have.
Okay.
Now, so I asked you, because your mother is suing for a lot of stuff, and I don't understand why somebody would take this approach when she was nothing but good to both of you. You screwed up your life. She got stuck raising your 2 children, working full-time, and taking care of a sick mother. You go to school, and you're a full-time mother, but that's very nice. But she's not your mother. She's not your grandmother. She's nobody to you. Mm-hmm. And she took you in and your 2 children. What do you think you did to make her so angry that she would sue you? I'm curious.
I honestly don't know.
Well, you started to tell me that you moved on because she ultimately gave you notice to leave.
We actually gave her notice we were leaving, and that's when all that started.
Okay. Did you also tell your mother that you wanted to buy the house?
Yes, I did.
From her?
Yes, I did.
Okay. Well, that started the trouble. And your mother's response was?
Of course. She said, okay.
And what happened?
I went and applied for a loan. They told me that I did not meet the criteria for the loan. I said, okay, that's fine. What about a rent-to-own option to buy? And she said, okay. We tried to get a real estate agent to go ahead and write out the contract. At that point in time, she wanted to move one of her nurses onto the property, into the trailer that she was living in. I did not feel comfortable with a stranger living on our property. I don't know them. I don't want them around my children. I don't know who they are. And if I'm going to be buying a home, I wouldn't want to.
You're not buying anything. You were renting.
With the option to buy. I want to buy the home, and then when I go back to apply for the loan in a year, I was going to buy the home.
Maybe, maybe not. Mr. Horath, so far, you see, you have somebody who has done all things to make your life, which you screwed up a little bit, more comfortable. Takes you in, takes your girls in, takes your girlfriend in, takes your girlfriend's kids in, allows you to have more latitude and more freedom by moving herself out of her own home, which is totally paid off, into a trailer so that you could be more comfortable. And she said, you want to buy the house? Fine. You couldn't get a loan. Well, could I rent to buy? She says, okay. But she's still a working person, as opposed to your fiance. You ratified the gift by buying her something that could only be utilized with that machine. So I'm not interested in the machine. Could we move forward, please? I have 7 years of postgraduate education. I'm getting very tired of this case.
Nancy Castleman claims her son, Danny Horath, and his fiancée, Trinity Watson, owe for living expenses and stolen property. Danny and Trinity say they always paid their share of the bills.
Okay, now, she's still a working person, and she said, I would like to move one of my nurses. She's not talking about moving in some sex offender into a trailer next to her grandchildren, who she's raised. So I wouldn't see what your problem is with that, but that's neither here nor there. So that started an acrimonious separation. I'm not going to rent the house because I'm not going to allow you to move somebody that I don't know. I'm not even going to meet them. Somebody that I don't know into the trailer. Where are you living now?
We have our own home now.
Where?
Because we didn't agree with, we didn't want to live with her nurse, so we went
Just a second. I said the question is, where is your own home?
in Hellendale,
Is that where she lives?
near
How near?
10 miles up the road.
And when did you move there?
July 14th.
How big a house?
It's a 3-bedroom, 3-bath.
Who owns the house?
We're renting
And how much are you paying in rent?
$2,500.
So you got a smaller house at 5 times what you were paying her. Is that what I'm hearing? You paid $455 monthly to your mother.
We also paid her van payment, but we
What?
also used the van. Her van payment, it was $900 a month.
Did you use the van?
Yes.
Good. Then you,
Well,
good.
we used it to also take her mother to,
Did you use the van
yes,
for you and your children and his children?
yes.
Yes. Okay, good. So I want to know if she's right down the road and she was good to you for a decade, why is she not included with your family anymore?
She chose not to be.
Really?
Yeah, she wants to work all the time. When we invite her to do things or family functions or church functions, she would never come.
Well, you say never. You just moved out a month ago.
This is prior to us moving out. We haven't talked to her since we moved.
You mean prior to you moving out, you would invite her? And what you said was, could you read that back? She's working all the time? Is that, I just want to know if that's what he said.
He said, yeah, she wants to work all the time. When we invite her to do things or church functions, she would never come.
Okay. Unpaid living expenses, electric bill. All right, let's get to the electric bill. He said he paid $300 a month. What does he owe for the electric bill and for what months?
I was on a level pay plan for every month, and it went up higher. The rates have increased for in the past year. So that was $900. It was $1,800, the bill that came out. So it actually increased over last year, and I have copies of that. So I asked for them to pay half.
Did they ever pay the extra money?
No.
Okay. And they continue to live there?
That just came up in May, yes.
Okay, well, then I'm not interested in that. Go ahead.
And,
What else? What other living expenses?
Well, the other electric bill, they were still there. They didn't pay for that one.
Which
was
one?
The one from June to July.
Were you there in June, July?
Yes, ma'am. And I have evidence that I did pay.
Okay, I'd like to see it.
Paid $3, not the whole amount.
No, I did pay.
Just let me see that you paid it. June 19th, $600.
That was not for this electric bill. It was for
No, that was for Edison.
It says Con Edison.
Yes.
There was another bill that still needed. It was like $723.
I don't care.
That he owed.
I don't care. He paid $600 in June of 2022. You have vet bills here and personal items taken without permission. And the personal items taken without permission, you took some of her things. What did you take that didn't belong to you?
Nothing.
Well, you acknowledged that you did. You acknowledged that either you or your fiance took things that didn't belong to you. You said you returned them, but you took them.
They were packed by other family members that were helping us pack.
And so they were taken without her permission.
Yes.
By your agents, by people who were helping you. So
Yes.
they were your agents. What was taken?
I guess there was a gun.
Not guess. I don't want to hear guess.
There was a gun that was packed.
Okay. Did you get the gun back?
I got the gun back next day.
It was returned, yes.
What else?
That's as far as I know.
What else was missing?
The ammo.
The ammunition for the gun.
I don't have any ammunition.
I wouldn't have a gun without ammo.
Well, go and look for it. What else?
KitchenAid machine.
What is that?
A KitchenAid for mixing and making. I bought that for my mom. They took that.
That was given to us by my grandmother because she can no longer bake, or actually given to her because she bakes.
And she even, for Mother's Day, Nancy brought, her and Granny, her mother, Nancy brought me the attachment. It makes pasta for the KitchenAid for Mother's Day. So she was aware that her mother gave me, when she moved to the facility, that she gave me the...
she moved to a facility, she can't make a gift. If she's moving to a facility because she has Alzheimer's, she can't make a gift.
I have power of attorney over her.
Shh. Now, if what you're telling me is that you did take it and that the plaintiff sort of ratified that by buying you an attachment for it for Mother's Day, that I'll ask her about. Okay. Now, Ms. Castleman, listen to me very carefully. Did you buy Miss Watson around Mother's Day a pasta attachment for the KitchenAid?
Yes, ma'am, I did. For my mom. With my mom.
I don't...
Because they were supposed to be cooking together.
No. No. You bought an attachment for it, and if you buy an attachment, that was a gift, correct?
Yes, ma'am.
And you made the gift, you handed the gift to whom?
To Trinity.
Right. So even if your mother didn't have the mental capacity, you could have argued, to make a gift, and it was yours, you ratified the gift by buying her something that could only be utilized with that machine. So I'm not interested in the machine. Could we move forward, please? I have 7 years of postgraduate education. I'm getting very tired of this case.
Okay.
Anything else? Vet bill. Now we'll get to the vet bill. Okay. You had to go to the emergency room when and for what, Ms. Castleman?
I was having issues with my stomach. I was diagnosed with diverticulitis and had to go to the...
I can imagine. When?
That was in June, beginning of June.
June of this year. Who took you to the emergency room?
I had to take an Uber. I couldn't drive.
Who was home?
Trinity and her family.
And her family. Mm-hmm. And when you went to the emergency room, where was the van?
The van was at the home.
Why didn't she take you to the emergency room?
She said she couldn't do that. She said that she was too busy and stressed out.
Is that right?
I was dealing with my children's father just passed away that day.
And I was there with
Just a second. You were separated from him. Why couldn't you take her to the emergency room?
Because my children just found out that their dad passed away.
That was
I was
the day
dealing with
before.
their emotions.
Just a second. I'm just trying to figure out why you couldn't take her to the emergency room. You've been living with your mother for a while now, since you got out of jail. How many times has your mother been to the emergency room?
Quite a few.
How many?
More than 10 that I know of.
And did you take her to the emergency room since you've been home?
I have before, yes.
How many times did you take her?
2 to 3 times, at least.
When was the last time you took her?
Maybe a year ago.
And what was wrong then?
Her sciatic nerve.
Did you wait with her?
Yes, ma'am.
Good, because that's the right thing to do.
Yes.
Yeah. Excuse me a second.
Get it.
Okay. Don't write to me if you're a fly lover. I don't care. You did absolutely nothing wrong. If I looked up the word ungrateful in the dictionary, their pictures would be there.
Nancy Castleman has accused her son, Danny Horath, and his fiancée, Trinity Watson, of taking advantage of her kindness. Danny and Trinity claim Nancy became upset when they stopped doing her favors.
Well, Miss Watson, I know that you have an excuse. If it were me and I had been living off somebody else for years, I would have put my kids in the van and say, we have to take Grandma to the emergency room. That would just be me. And deal with my children in the van 5 minutes later.
And I would have if I wasn't dealing with my children at the time, and she was aware of that. I think she even took a Lyft or an Uber. She let me know it was okay.
I'm just telling you. I'm trying to get some sympathy going for the two of you. I'm not getting any sympathy going for the two of you. Did she ask you to watch her dog?
No, she, like normal, I have a dog too on the property, and it was a mutual agreement that anytime one of us were gone, we would always make sure the dog went out to use the restroom. But the day her dog had an injury, I wasn't home.
Where were you?
Gymnastics competition.
But this happened at night.
When was your dog injured?
On the day that I went to the ER. I asked her before, I said, I have to go, my lift is here, and can you feed my dogs? And because they're in their trailer still, and Molly's still on the bed, and I didn't want her jumping down, and can you take them out? I don't know when I'll be back. The Uber was there, or the Lyft was there, and I left. And then when I came back home, it was about 5:30 in the morning. I noticed the dogs were in there, and that Asher was cut up. He had big old laceration.
Did you know what happened? Could you figure out what happened?
No, I think I know now they probably it was probably under their trailer while he was out, because she did say that she took him out, but she forgot to feed them, and she was home.
That night I was home, yeah.
Mm-hmm. Did you see her dog injured?
No.
Did you feed her dog that day?
No, I did forget to feed the dogs. I took her small dog, Tamale, off the bed, and I had them go out, and then I put them right back in, and I went back on to the house.
And you forgot to feed them?
Yes, I did.
Okay. But when you went in there, the dog was not injured?
No, he was not.
Okay. The last part of this, and then I'm actually finished. Money owed for unpaid living expenses. Anything other than what we have discussed?
They're supposed to pay rent.
Starting when?
It was supposed to initially have been in November for January of 2022, because since my mom had to go, away because she couldn't take care of her anymore, I had to do what I have to do.
You mean after she stopped watching your mother?
Mm-hmm. That's when I mostly enforced it. But there are text messages that they agreed to pay.
I'd like to see them.
Okay.
I understand, Mr. Horath and Miss Watson, that the agreement was that you would live there paying certain expenses but not rent, as long as you, Miss Watson, and or Mr. Horath, when you were home, would take care of her mother so that she could work.
Yes.
Yes.
And that stopped at a particular point.
Yes, in May.
That stopped in May.
Yes.
Okay. Well, it does seem that there were arguments back and forth about these expenses, but never wholly an understanding that that was going to happen.
Your Honor, I had several conversations with my son while he was truck driving. He didn't really talk to her particularly, because I think she had a lot of influence on that. He would have done the
Whether
right
he did or whether he did, this comes from Danny himself. He says, okay, check this out. I'll call the state inspectors for the septic room additions in the bathroom that needs permits first.
She did.
Just a second. What kind of thing is that? How many times have you been married?
2.
And how old are you?
37.
How many times have you been married?
2.
And how old are you?
28.
And that's 2 in addition to this current engagement.
No, then it would just be 1.
And you?
Just 1.
Well, then you're not married, so you've each been married once before.
Yes, ma'am.
I just want you to look at your mother. Maybe in the next couple of years, maybe, she will be here, and maybe she won't. I'm sure when you married the first time, you expected that to be forever because you made a couple of children, right?
Yes.
I hope you'll be able to see that face for a very long time, but she had another husband before you. You're only going to have one mother. And your mother was really good to you and really good to a stranger and her children. And she didn't invite them in and say, well, I'm going to apply for some assistance because I'm... No, she worked all the time. According to you, she chose to work. She chose to work all the time instead of going to church with you. You have no idea how ridiculous that sounds. You have no idea how ridiculous it sounds to me that Miss Watson says to me, I have children. I can't work. Well, she had 2 children, yours. And she worked and had your 2 children that she had to take care of. And she's much older than Miss Watson. Do you understand?
Yes.
If you have a work ethic, you have a work ethic. If you don't have a work ethic, you don't have a work ethic. But right now, she took care of you since you got out of jail. That's a long time. And for you to cut her off from yourself and her grandchildren is pretty outrageous to me. But you're 37 years old, and you have 4 children. now 6, because they don't have father anymore, right?
Yes, ma'am.
Yeah. So I don't know what you were doing with all your extra money, but to your mother you were paying $400 a month for a 5-bedroom house, and now you're paying $2,500 a month rent in a 3-bedroom house, and I assume that that's plus trash, Con Edison, and internet, and everything else that goes along with the house. So I don't know who's paying for that, unless you were just stashing away money. I don't know. I doubt it. I don't even want to go into it. Anyway, Miss Castleman, it's not worth it. You did the right thing with him. You took him in. You did absolutely nothing wrong. But you didn't have a contract with him, and you didn't have a contract with her. And I can't enforce giving you money when there was no enforceable contract. But if I looked up the word ungrateful in the dictionary, their pictures would be there. We're done.
This court is adjourned.
I'm grateful for the things that she did say so they can understand where I'm coming from.
She has no control. She gets upset and wants to see revenge in any way she can.
Those words are not from him. I know my son.
We had a good relationship before all of this transpired.
They don't get it.
Well, I hope that we can all eventually get back to that point for the sake of